for another week of NFL picks, this time for week number 12 of the 2019 NFL season. We just have about a quarter of the NFL regular season left, gearing up for the NFL playoffs, and there are quite a few games this week that I think have big-time playoff implications. We have the San Francisco 49ers versus the Green Bay Packers, the New England Patriots taking on the Dallas Cowboys in probably one of the most watched games of the year that I'm going to and excited to be going to. We have the Rams on Monday Night Football versus the Ravens. There are a lot of good games, and that's not even including the Seahawks and the Eagles. So, yeah, a lot of good football games this week. Last week, I did pretty well. I think most people did. It was a fairly easy week in terms of NFL picks. Last week, I went 11-3 straight up, and then versus the spread, I went 8. Let me check this so I don't get it right. 9-5. So I went 9-5 versus the spread, and 11-3 straight up. 101, 59-1 straight up. 86-76 for the season versus the spread. So, doing fairly well for the season. I'd always like to be doing better. Let me know in the comment section, rather below if you're watching this after the fact, or right now here live, how you're doing on the season if you're keeping track. Let me know in the comment section. If you're live, thank you for joining me live. Appreciate you guys. Let's Gronk spike the like button. Get those likes up. Subscribe to the Bottom Line View if you haven't already for more NFL content just like this and weekly NFL pick videos. And comment below your opinion, whether if you're live, if you're after the fact watching this. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what your opinion is on the week. Who do you have winning? Who do you have losing? Any upset specifically that you think you can really nail? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, so week number 12 is here. Let's start off with Thursday Night Football. Thursday Night Football this season, I've said it a couple times, but really do believe that this has been the best season we've ever had for Thursday Night Football. Last week wasn't the best game in the world, but we came away with one of the most controversial games in a while in terms of NFL. I mean, we had the Myles Garrett helmet hitting Rudolph in the head. Well, that entire madness, that ended up being not really a great game for the NFL, but nonetheless a conversation piece in football and in sports. So from a ratings perspective, maybe that was pretty good. I don't know, but that's not exactly what the NFL wants to be producing on a weekly basis, but nonetheless, it was a pretty interesting game between the Browns and the Steelers at the end of things. This week, we have the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. This game, I think, obviously is big for many reasons. These two teams need this victory to potentially win this division because it's pretty much between these two teams to win the division. The Jags have kind of fallen off, even with Nick Foles coming back. And the Tennessee Titans are still in the mix. I wouldn't count them out, but I just feel like these two teams are a little bit above the rest of the AFC South. So this game, the Colts won the first one, is even bigger for the Texans, but is a big game for both teams because if you get that advantage, if you're the Colts, the 2 games advantage, and you have the head-to-head advantage in the division, then that's huge. But also, if either team, goes a long way to just making the playoffs, whether that's as the division winner or potentially even a wild card, the way that the AFC is set up right now, it's probably going to be the second place team in the AFC South or the second place team in the AFC West that gets that final wild card spot, as the Buffalo Bills are most likely to hold on to that first wild card spot. So if you don't win the division, you have a chance for that wild card. Colts and Texans. T.Y. Hilton has been out for quite a few weeks for the Colts, but it looks like he might be back in this game. He was fully back at practice today. Desir as well, their number one corner, who's also been out for, I would like to say, a month, was also back at practice for the Colts, but they are missing Marlon Mack, who is out. So that's going to be a little bit different from their running game. I don't think it really has a massive impact on the rushing attack for the Colts, and I really don't think it has a massive impact on this game because the Colts will probably more likely like to attack the air, like to attack the weak secondary of the Ravens, or sorry, not the Ravens, of the Texans, than the ground game and try and just force it up the middle versus a pretty good run defense and a pretty big front. We saw the Ravens, which is where I was going with the Ravens, they were balanced, and I'd like to say that they were more effective throwing the ball than they have been for most of the season because the Texans do not have a good secondary. It's very banged up. When you look at it, it's more banged up now than it even has been in the past. I mean, Justin Reed, who many would argue might be the best player in that secondary, is questionable. Lonnie Johnson, questionable. Mike Adams, questionable. All these players did not attend practice. Roby and Gibson, two other talented players in their secondary, are questionable as well going into the game. I believe they were limited in practice. So, if any, it's most likely that Reed, Johnson, and Adams will not play. But if Roby and Gibson also don't play or one of them misses, I mean, this secondary is just relying on backups, guys that they're picking up off the scrap heap, guys that really aren't good NFL players. So if you're Jacoby Brissett this week, you should have a big game. A key to that is getting T.Y. Hilton back because the Colts have not been a very good passing team without T.Y. Hilton, if you guys haven't noticed. But a thing that the Colts have going for them is that they've been able to attack this secondary and this defense in the past. They've won 3 of the past 4 games, and a lot of it has been because of whether it was Andrew Luck or Jacoby Brissett having success through the air. Frank Reich has been very good in terms of game planning versus this defense. Now, Houston is 23rd in pressure after quarterbacks, and Indianapolis is 11th in pass protection. So Indy kind of has the advantage there. And Houston, I would say that number even dips considering that J.J. Watt has only been out for the season for a couple of weeks. Now you're not really worrying about J.J. Watt. You're not worrying about double teaming J.J. Watt. Now you're taking away Whitney Merciless, and really the Texans don't have anybody else that can rush the passer on a consistent basis. Houston is 24th in protecting Deshaun Watson. Indianapolis is 20th in pressure. So a slight advantage there for the Colts. The Colts wisely are resting a lot of their pass rushers in practice and not making them go through the full physical part of the week. And they're going to have a good game here on the road versus the Texans to get pressure after Deshaun Watson. I think it was kind of a one-off for Deshaun Watson last week, considering that he played the Ravens. The Ravens are a defense that rely a lot on confusion, rely a lot on making you think twice, in terms of, okay, what am I seeing here? Is it man coverage? Is it zone coverage? What type of zone coverage is it? What matchups do I like? And then they play a lot of people at the line of scrimmage. I think this is why when we get to looking at the Texans and Patriots, I believe that's next week or in 2 weeks from now, that's going to be a difficult matchup for the Texans. But they do play the Colts. The Colts defensively are more of a team that is going to play and do what they do. They're a very conservative defense. They rely on their front 4 a lot to get after the quarterback, and they don't blitz a ton. So in that being said, I do feel like this game could be a little bit high scoring. The Colts, they're technically 6-2 with Jacoby Brissett, and I think they are flying a little bit under the radar because of that, and because of the 2 losses with Brian Hoyer playing the majority of the time at quarterback. Just a part of the first quarter was played by Brissett in that Steelers game. Now, if the Texans want to win this game, which they are favored in this game, but I would consider the Colts the better of the 2 teams, I think the Texans need to run the ball effectively. Now, quietly, they're 5th running the ball with Carlos Hyde, Deshaun Watson, and the players that they have. But on the other side, the flip side, the Colts have actually been a better unit versus the run than versus the pass. They're 9th versus the run this season. Now, this is the key to me in the game. Which defense is better on 3rd down and in the red zone? And to me, that's the Colts. It's been the Colts, and considering the injuries, the Texans will probably be worse in this area of the field and on 3rd down. So the Texans are 28th on 3rd down defensively and 30th in the red zone. So they give up points when you get to the red zone, and they have trouble getting off the field because their secondary is no good. And now that they don't have J.J. Watt, their pass rush is no good. So as long as the Colts are staying ahead of the chains, as long as they're effective on first down, then that will allow them to have a successful game plan offensively. Colts are 18th on third down and 10th in the red zone defensively. So I'm counting on the Colts from a defensive point of view to make one or two more plays versus the Texans and Deshaun Watson than the Texans can make versus Brissett, Frank Reich's offense, and hopefully T.Y. Hilton. Now, if Hilton is not playing in this game, I might change my pick. But as for now, I'm going with the Colts to win and to continue their winning streak versus the Texans. I will also take the 4 points, of course. This is a game that I would consider betting on. I think the Colts have shown that whenever they play the Texans, this is a good matchup for them. This is a team that they just know how to beat. And sometimes that's all that matters in the NFL. All right, let's get to Sunday. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have recently pretty much turned their, I don't want to say turn their season around, but they've become a completely different team with a completely different identity. So it makes it that much more difficult to actually pick what they're going to produce on the football field right now. So who are these Atlanta Falcons? Now, I am intrigued to see what has happened to their defense. Their defense has played a lot better, and it's not like Keanu Neal has stepped up and gone off IR and starts playing. I don't really think it's been because they've had a lot of injuries and those injured players are now playing. I think it's mostly been due to their scheme. I think it's mostly been due to the fact that they've recognized some of their flaws on their team and they've shifted and changed their point of view. I also think it has something to do with Raheem Morris being added to their defensive staff and having more of an impact in what they're doing schematically on that side of the ball. I've seen that they've been playing more man, they've been playing less of the Seattle scheme, and I think that's helped. Their defensive line has played better. They've always this season been good versus the run, so I'm not really truly shocked by that, but for them to pick off Kyle Allen 4 times speaks to that they're changing what their defense is doing because they're being more creative and they're being a little bit more difficult to diagnose. A quarterback, even Kyle Allen, will be able to sit back there, and if he knows what defense you're playing, he won't throw 4 picks. But the 4 picks, to me, shows that Atlanta's playing a little bit more aggressive, and they're playing with a little bit more creativity on that side of the ball. When we look at this game in particular, this is going to be a good game, I think. I think just from a general watching point of view, most Bucs games are entertaining just because the Bucs have an entertaining offense and a quarterback that we never know what's going to happen. But when we look at both sides of the ball, I do feel like this could be a fairly high-scoring game. Matt Ryan with Ridley, Julio, potentially Hooper back in the lineup. This could probably be a big game for Matt Ryan and one of the best of his season, as long as they're able to protect up front versus the Bucs defensive line, which at times has been pretty good. But when I looked it up, Atlanta is actually surprisingly 12th overall this season in protecting their quarterback from the pass rush. So I do believe that the Bucs probably won't dominate in that side or in that area of the game. Now, Atlanta's 3rd worst in pressure and in sacks this season. Now, they have improved the last couple of games, but will that stand up versus Winston and the Bucs? Because if Winston does have time, he certainly will be able to throw for a lot of yards and some chunk plays with Evans and Godwin and the players and playmakers that they do have. Now, Atlanta, I think this will probably be a one-dimensional attack for them offensively with just their passing game, as the Bucs do have a good run defense, but I do think that's the way they want to attack, and I think that's the way that they have to attack regardless. When we look at this, I think this game truly is going to be close. I think it will be within a touchdown, but when I look at it, who's going to win this game? Well, I think it comes down to what quarterback's going to take better care of the football, and that ultimately, every single time when you're playing Jameis Winston, we do not know what Winston's going to show up. Last week, it was a 4-interception one. I think Matt Ryan is more trustworthy. Atlanta's at home. I think they find a way to win this game. I'm going to take Atlanta to cover the spread, but I am not 100% convinced that the Bucs will not be able to make this within a 4.5-point game. But because Atlanta's at home, and because I never know that Jameis Winston, they could be driving for a game-winning touchdown, throw a pick 6, and then, hey, Atlanta covered. So I'm going to go with Atlanta in this game. The way that they've been playing has been impressive. I think they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and I think more so for the Bucs, they've kind of realized that their season is a little bit over now, but expect this game to be entertaining. I did that one with the whole the thing off. I didn't even notice that. But yeah, Atlanta's -4.5 if you guys didn't notice. And I have Atlanta winning both ways. All right, so the next game is the Denver Broncos and the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills last week, I believe Josh Allen had maybe his best game as a passer in his entire career versus the Dolphins. He was just on point. He didn't make many mistakes. His accuracy was there. I mean, the arm strength was there, and he showed that his true potential. I mean, he showed what he can do running. He showed what he can do extending the play. He showed what he could do breaking tackles. He showed what he could do with his big arm. And I think if Josh Allen continues to play that way, then the Bills will continue to get better as a team. But they are now playing a team in the Broncos who are one of the better teams versus the pass. This should be a very low-scoring game as the over-under suggests. The Bills are third in points, I believe, points allowed. I believe the Broncos are in the top 10, if not the top 5 as well. And the Bills are actually third in points allowed, third in yards allowed, and third in pass defense. They are 18th versus the run, though, which is interesting because the Broncos do like to run the football with Phillip Lindsay and with Royce Freeman. And I would not be shocked if the Broncos did win this game. It was because they had over 100 yards with Phillip Lindsay and they were able to run the ball and kind of establish their type of game. Now, I do think that the Broncos are a team that don't necessarily win a lot of games, but they keep a lot of games close, and they've lost a number of football games this year that have been within, like, one score. So, I think this game will be within one score. The spread is -4 for the Bills. The Bills are at home. It's the Allen versus Allen matchup, and honestly, I think for the Broncos, their offenses looked a little bit more smooth with Allen than with Flacco, as weird as that is to say. John Brown versus Chris Harris should be a very good matchup. I'm thinking that Cole Beasley will probably have the best game of the receivers for the Bills because Brown will be shadowed by Harris for a majority of this game after a huge game versus Miami. I could see the Broncos winning this game, but considering the motivation for both teams, considering who the home team is, and considering that I just don't think the Broncos will be able to pass the ball with much consistency in this game, and I would consider Josh Allen more of a playmaker than the Broncos Allen. I would say that Josh Allen will probably get the better of the Broncos, and I think that the Bills will win this game. I'm going to say, again, I think it's at least within 10, if not within 7. 4 points is really tough. You know what? I am going to take the Broncos +4. And that is because I did say at the top of this, and I need to keep myself in line, that the Broncos could win this game and could upset the Bills. So I will take the 4 points, but I will take the Bills to win this game. One more game, then I'll get to the comment section. Guys, let me know who you think's going to win this game. And if you haven't already, Gronk spike the like button. Next game, New York Giants, Chicago Bears. Bears are -6, which I feel is maybe too many points considering that the Bears are not very good at, let's just say, scoring points. The Bears are not a very good offense. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is, whether that's Daniel, whether that's Trubisky. I don't think it has a lot to do with the quarterback. I know that Trubisky sucked and he's continued to suck, but I don't think Daniel is any better. If not, he's worse. So that being said, I don't think the Bears, with their really bad offensive line this year, a rushing attack that's extremely inconsistent, and a receiving core that doesn't have many big play playmakers, I don't see how the Bears cover 6 in this game unless their defense causes turnovers for points. So I'm going to take the Giants plus the 6 points. I think this is actually one of the better picks of the week, considering that I think the Giants could win this game. The Giants are getting Sterling Shepard back. Yes, Saquon Barkley hasn't been overly effective or efficient lately, but he could make 1 or 2 runs where that could be the only 2 runs of the game that go for positive yards and they're a touchdown. That's the type of playmaker and player that Saquon is, and even if the Giants struggle to get a run game going with their offensive line and any push, Saquon can make a couple people miss and go for a touchdown. Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than what the Bears have, so getting 6 points is nice. I think the receiving group of the Giants is a little bit underrated. I've liked what I've seen from Golden Tate this season. Sterling Shepard is a good player and should be back in this game. And guys like Slayton are not terrible. So I'm going to pick the Bears to win the game, but I like the Giants to cover. And I even considered the Giants winning this game. But again, because the Bears are at home, because the Bears have the better defense, and I would say secondary to contain the pass, you never know that if Matt Nagy is feeling himself and this offense can hit a couple of big plays versus this Giants secondary, then it could get interesting. So I'm really considering this. I'm honestly almost considering taking the upset here. You know what? This is tough, honestly, because I think the Bears suck. But I don't think the Giants are good either. So, and the Giants defense has had some major issues in the secondary. But I don't know if the Bears are able to take advantage of that. That's the thing. Like, it's really hard to know that. I'm gonna go with the Giants just because I feel like I don't get excited picking the Bears. So you know what? I'm gonna pick the Giants. Because, like, for all the reasons I said, I think if it's not close, they can win. I think Daniel Jones taking the better quarterback here is not crazy. So, you know, I'm gonna go with the Giants. I switched my pick in the middle of the video, but, you know, that's the way I'm going to be. So I'm going to pick the Giants. I'm intrigued to see who you guys pick for that. So let's get to the comment section right now. Okay, let's start off with Caleb, who says, I'm here, boy. Steven says, hi. Busboy says, hey. Rob says, what up? Ultra says, sup, y'all. What's going on, guys? Deshaun says, taking Houston 30-27, shootout through the air. I would agree with the premise there, but I disagree with who's going to win. Even though I wouldn't be shocked if the Texans split with the Colts this season, but I do think that overall the Colts are the better team. Hot Take says, Milani, what's up? Viveros. Nemskit says, I'll try. It's weird to see with a... Don't know where he's going with that. Rob says, John in the house. Caleb says, do you believe that Bro is coming back in week 14? Who's Bro? Ultra says, currently I am 113-53 on the year. Ultra's a killer in the picks. Rob says, Texans 31-27. Caleb says Gronk. I don't know how you got bro to Gronk. Like, is that an interchangeable word? No, Caleb, I do not believe Gronk is coming back this season. Maybe next year. We'll have to wait, but not this season. Ultra says, yeah, that was an awful call. He says Houston will win 27-24. Okay, he asked that same question. Some Seattle, Philadelphia talk. Mitch, do I think Watson is a top 5 quarterback like Lamar Jackson? I would say yeah, but I think he is not playing as well as Lamar Jackson this year, but I think he's definitely in the top 5. I will say, though, I do think by certain people he is a little bit overrated. I do think that slightly, but I'm just going to throw that out there. Nemskits says, I picked the Colts to win this game. I think they could do it. 21-20 is my score. Kevin Durkant says, give me the Texans 27-20. Whoever loses this game will miss the playoffs. Bold prediction. I don't know if that's bold, but yeah, that's a prediction nonetheless. Deshaun says, I picked the Houston after their loss to Baltimore. So he thinks that they're going to come back and win it. Trivia, a.k.a. Party, says, it's at T.Y. Hilton Stadium. He says Pierre Desir will play and shut down D-Hop. All right, there's his bold prediction. Atlanta 24-20 says Rob. Atlanta fan says he's talking about the Falcons. The header confused me. Yeah, I messed that up. My bad, guys. Zane said, should I start Jake Elliott or Randy Bullock in fantasy? Are we serious with a kicker question, bro? Are we serious? But I think Elliott is the better start. It's a kicker. You flip a coin. What else we have here? Fact or fiction, Raheem Morris gets promoted to defensive coordinator, says Rob. Maybe next year. I'll say fact. If he continues to do what he's doing right now. Rex says, can't hang around tonight. Thumbs up as always, though. Good luck with the picks. Thanks, Rex. Kevin Durkant says, Bills 16-13. Deshaun says, can't believe Denver lost that game. Yeah, they had a good shot. Kevin Durkant says, Bills are pretenders. Rob says, Broncos Bills announcers are Kevin Harlan and Rich Gannon. All right, thank you for that. I don't know why that matters, but thanks for that. Zane says, low-key a good betting game. Jimmy says, the Bills, 49ers, and Bears are all going to win. Ultra says, Atlanta wins. Way better quarterback, much better defense. Owns Tampa Bay. Triple X says, what do you mean the Bears offense is amazing with a winky face? Yeah, I think you know it sucks. Browns Nation says, you better pick the Browns. I don't know, man. Those Dolphins. We're going to get to that in a bit. Okay, back to the picks. Where am I at here? I did that one. This one. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. In my opinion, I think Rudolph should have been suspended as well, but that's just my opinion. I will say this, he sucks. So I think the Steelers would have been better off if he were suspended, because I honestly think their backup is better than him, because he has below average NFL arm strength, and whenever he tries to throw a ball with any zip, it's not very pretty. He also single-handedly got Juju injured by throwing it into quadruple coverage. Now, they play the Cincinnati Bengals, who are the worst team in football. They are favored by 6.5. It's interesting. I don't know if they're going to cover that number, but I do think they will win because I think their defense is very good, and I think their defense can win this game by themselves. I think their defense will get a ton of pressure on young Finley. And really, the only guy they have to worry about is Boyd at wide receiver to make plays, so I think they'll be able to shut that down. Kirkpatrick's playing like a very elite safety right now. Not much else to be said here. I think the Steelers, the way that they attack the Bengals is by running the football and running it some more. I will say that they ultimately do cover this game because they are better versus the Bengals than the other teams in their division, and they usually play the Bengals well, even when the Bengals were good, and they dominate this series. So I'm going to say Mike Tomlin Steelers and that defense cover this game and win, but I don't think Rudolph makes it look very pretty. So that's my pick there. Next, the Miami Dolphins at the, I was going to say Cincinnati, Cleveland Browns. Dolphins, Browns. Browns are minus 10.5. Now, Myles Garrett, boom, see you later. So that's something interesting for this game. Dolphins have been playing better than, we expected over the past few weeks, and they've been doing fairly well, considering the talent on their team. And again, I want to give a hand for Brian Flores for what he's been doing and the entire coaching staff. But I will say the Browns should win this game, and the Browns, I think, will win this game. I also think the Browns should cover, but I'm not 100% convinced. Honestly, I kind of want to go with the Dolphins. 10.5 points for a team like the Browns is a lot of points because the Browns are not a very good team. The Browns are average, really. They have been playing better, though. I will say that much. But without Myles Garrett, it becomes interesting because Myles Garrett is like single-handedly their best player on their team and on their defense and makes their defense a lot better. But this is the reason why I'll say the Browns will cover, because I think the Browns offense should score a lot. I mean, I think they'll have a really good game on the ground, and I think they'll be able to create some big plays on the ground. I think that will keep Mayfield comfortable, who played a good game last week versus the Steelers for the most part, considering the defense. I think Odell will have one or two big plays in this game. And I really like what they're doing, incorporating both of their running backs into both the passing game and the running game. Defensively, even without Garrett, I think they're good enough to get some pressure on Fitzpatrick, and their secondary is kind of underrated. So I'm going to go with the Browns. They're at home. They should win. So I'll take the 10.5. I'll take them to cover it, but I'm not feeling confident about it because I feel like that is a pretty big number, even if they're playing the Dolphins. Next game, Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. Saints are minus 9.5. And it says Carolina minus 9.5. That's my bad. It's Saints minus 9.5. I guess that gives you a clue on where I'm going with this pick. I think Carolina is going to cover the spread. It's minus 9.5. I think that's too many points. And the reason why I think it's too many points is even if Allen, played horrible versus Atlanta last week, he threw 4 interceptions. They play well versus New Orleans, Carolina. At least the last 5-ish matchups, these games have all been pretty close. When you look at it, Carolina, they beat them the last time they played. It was 33-14 the last time they played. Kyle Allen played quarterback in that game, and no, Drew Brees didn't play, but Teddy Bridgewater did. And the Panthers dominated, 33-14. And the other 2 games before that, Carolina lost 12-9. They lost by 3 points, and Cam wasn't playing in that game either. And then 5-point win by the Saints the other time that they played. So the last 3 times they've played, Carolina has rather won or kept it within 1 score. So that being said, I think Carolina will cover the 9.5. But I do see the Saints winning. I think where the Saints will win is because when you look at this matchup, I think the Saints, their run defense is very good. They should be able to slow down McCaffrey or at least contain him in this game. Carolina likes to play a lot of zone coverage, although I'm intrigued to see if they play a lot of zone the same way that Atlanta did in taking away a lot of the short stuff, a lot of the easy completions. Carolina at times has been able to do that versus the Saints, and then at other times Drew Brees has picked them apart. So it's interesting to see which defense for Carolina comes out to play here. Carolina is actually one of the top 3 best pass rushing teams in the league. If they're able to get any sort of pressure on a banged up Saints offensive line, then this game could be very entertaining. But overall, I think that this is going to be a game where the Saints, they wear them down with the rushing attack of Alvin Kamara. Drew Brees is very efficient with his throws underneath versus zone coverage. And I think overall, the Saints, they figured out that if they maintain the possession, they win. 37 minutes to 23 last week versus Tampa Bay. They could do a similar thing versus Kyle Allen and the Panthers and ultimately dictate this game and win this game. Kamara's playing the 27th rush defense in the league in Carolina. Carolina has the worst red zone defense in the league, which is not favorable versus New Orleans. So I will take the Saints to win this game, but because of the history of these 2 teams and these 2 coaches, I will say that the Panthers make this game somewhat of a contest, and I will take the 9.5 points. All right, next game, Oakland Raiders at the New York Jets. The Raiders are minus 3 points. Jets are at home. Raiders came out to a disappointing victory versus the Bengals, in my opinion. I expected them to come out and blow them out of the water. Maybe they were feeling themselves a little bit, potentially a trap game there. But they still came out with the victory. I think Derek Carr has been playing pretty efficient football. Of course, I've talked about how Waller and Jacobs have been the centerpieces of their offense, and their offensive line has been superb. Defensive line-wise, Max Crosby, their rookie, 4th-round pick. If you would have told me he was a top 5 pick instead of Clelin Ferrell, I would have said, whoa, dude, yeah, he is. Not Clelin Ferrell, but, he's kind of coming on a little bit. But I think Max Crosby has been a really nice bright spot for them. And considering all the draft picks, Jacobs, Abram, who's injured, but he was looking good early in this season. They had quite a few good picks, and this looks to be a really good young core of players for the Raiders. I think you have to be very happy if you're Mike Mayock and overall just the management and this team and the ownership. The Raiders have a bright future ahead of them. I think they win this game. I think that overall their offense can do some things versus the Jets. But I think this game, more so than many others, will actually be on the Raiders' passing game, because the Jets are the number 1 team in all of football at adjusted line yards in terms of run defense. That means how much of a push do you get with your defensive line or your offensive line? And the Jets are the best in the league at containing the run at the line of scrimmage. So that being said, it's not going to be a big Jacobs game. It's going to be more so on Derek Carr, Tyrell Williams, Darren Waller to get this one done. I think they can do that. I think they can cover the 3. But I actually think this is a challenging game for them, considering the Jets' offense has looked better, considering that Sam Darnold has played a little bit better recently, and Jamison Crowder's been going off. Bell had a good game last week. Their offensive line is weak, but then again, the Raiders' defensive line isn't dominant either. So this is a offense that's playing better football versus a defense that's not, it's not exactly very good, but they play very hard in the Raiders. And then an offense that's dictated by running the football, that's playing a very good run defense. So I understand why Vegas has this at only 3 points, considering the records of both teams. But the Jets are a much better team with Darnold at quarterback than what they had previously. At the same time, though, you have to consider the motivations of both teams, and I have to consider the quarterback play and the coaching of both teams. And with all 3 of those categories, the Raiders check the boxes for me saying Derek Carr's better than Sam Darnold, John Gruden's better than Adam Gase, and they need to win this game to meet up with the Chiefs next week for a big-time AFC West showdown. So the Raiders will be motivated, and they will win this game. All right. Detroit Lions at the Washington Redskins. After this one, I'll get to the comments before we go to Seahawks Eagles. Lions are minus 3.5 at the Redskins. I have no idea who's going to win this game, and quite honestly, I don't really care. I'm just going to be honest with you. Didn't put much thought into this game. But what I did think about was the potential fact that the Redskins could find a victory in this game. The Redskins, what they like to do offensively is run the football, and what the Lions do very, very poorly is defending the run. So if the Redskins, with Darius Geis, who's back, Adrian Peterson, Thompson, all these players are healthy, if they're able to establish somewhat of a running game and then get Dwayne Haskins going a little bit with a couple deep balls, then I think the Redskins could win this game. They're also at home, and of course, I don't think Matt Stafford is playing. That being said, I can't really count on Driscoll. He looked pretty good this week versus Dallas. I don't know how much of that was Dallas. I don't know how much of that was game plan. I want to shout out Scarborough, who I thought was good coming out of the draft, was drafted by Dallas late in a draft a couple years ago, maybe last year, a year before that, and I thought he was going to be a good player out of Alabama. He's just a big back, and he's kind of fit in as that starting running back for the Lions now, and I think that actually gave them a little bit of a spark last game versus Dallas. This game's tough. I'm actually going to take the upset, because I just feel like Washington needs a win here. And I know Washington sucks, but I'm going to take the 3.5. I'm going to take the home team between two teams that are not very good. I'm going to take the team that doesn't have Driscoll at quarterback. And I'm going to take the Redskins to win, because I think they're actually a decent matchup for the Lions. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Lions won. I don't really care. I'm just taking the home team. I'm taking the 3.5. That's the way it is. All right, let's get to the comment section before we get to Seahawks and Eagles, which I still haven't decided if I'm picking the Seahawks or the Eagles. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I haven't decided who's winning that game yet, so that's going to be interesting. Yeah, let me know, guys, who you think's going to win. Okay. What do we got here? How, like, an itchy feeling on the side of my face. It's annoying. Okay. Deshaun says Kyle Allen to have a big day. 4 touchdown passes and no interceptions. Wow, that would be a bounce back. Rex says, I already read that. I already read some of those. Where are we at? Oh, Anthony says, have you done the Cardinals game? No, not yet. Cardinals play this week? Cardinals don't play this week, do they? I'm trying to think. Like, I don't think they play. Kevin Durkant says it might be a tactic ultra to throw him off. Clash G says, really think the Redskins win? I don't know. Who knows? I hope so. I picked them. Robot says Steelers, question mark. Rob says Steelers 10-6. Really? You think they're going to go 10-6? Kevin Durkant says Bengals 13-10. Rob says, fact or fiction, Rudolph gets benched for Hodges. I think fact. I think Rudolph stinks, and I think Hodges is actually better than him. Ultra has Steelers winning 16-3. I could see that. Rob says Dolphins 21-17. Fish pull the upset, says Horgarth. Browns Nation says, you have got to be blanking me. Fitzception, no running back, and no offensive playmakers, and a defense. Hogarth says, Browns are inconsistent. Kevin Durkant says, imagine saying that when you can't even keep your best player. Rob says, Dolphins are a better coach team. Anthony says, me. Don't know what that is in reference to. New York Phenom says, I'm going to be at this game. Nice, man. Rob says, Saints 37-17 with a blowout. Kevin Durkant says, 38-10 Saints. Carolina is bad. Turtle says, Saints 27-14. Deshaun says, Saints 27-13. Okay. So everyone thinks they're going to cover. Interesting enough. Kevin Durkant says, Allen will throw a lot of picks. Ooh, the Panthers-Saints game is commentated by Nance and Romo. Fact or fiction, Allen gets benched for Will Greer. I will say fiction. Atlanta fan says Saints are better than the Panthers, but I want them to lose, so I'll go Carolina here, even though I think the Saints will win. Fair enough. Rob says the new owners are indicating a house cleaning. I'm thinking from the Panthers you're talking about. Kevin Durkant says Raiders 20-16. Comeback win for the Raiders. Okay. Nemskit says, I feel like the Dolphins' play recently has been overrated. I mean, they lost by 17 points to the Bills. The Bills are a playoff team right now, though. And they upset the Colts. But other than that, they haven't really done too much. Kevin Durkant says Lions 24-10. Rob says Lions 24-10. Atlanta fan says Rashad Jones is on IR now for Miami. I don't know if you mentioned that. No, I didn't. Fired or safe? Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. Interesting question. I could see them being fired. I'm going to say they get one more year, but I wouldn't be shocked if they were fired. Augustine says Seahawks 1,000. Alex says Seahawks over Eagles. Graham says, hey, bro, what's up, Graham? The Jays says you better pick the Eagles to win. Oh, is that a threat? Bottom Line View needs a Discord channel, says Rob. I actually have one. Maybe I'll make a new one. We'll see. I don't know who Gronk Spike the Like button is in the Fantasy League. All right, guys, let's get back to the picks. Oh, that's not the right one. Where am I at? Okay, I picked that game. There we go. Seahawks at Eagles. Eagles, -1.5. Guys, if you haven't already, Gronk Spike the Like button. We have 45 people in here and only 19 likes. Come on, guys. Let's get it up. All right. Week number 12. Big time stuff. Seahawks, Eagles. I did not have enough time to actually go in depth and do the research on this game, but I'm going off the top of my head here. I just watched the Eagles play my Patriots, so I have a pretty good indication about what they're about right now in terms of, because I watch Patriots games at a different level than other teams because I'm a Patriots fan. And for the Seahawks, they were on a bye, so they're coming fresh off the bye, maybe a little bit healthier, maybe a little bit rejuvenated, but we know that bye teams sometimes come out flat. So it's interesting. When we look at this game, let's start on the Seahawks offense versus the Eagles defense. So it's Russell Wilson versus Schwartz's defense. I think the Eagles have the advantage, defensive line versus offensive line. The Eagles are very good versus the run, which might make the Seahawks one-dimensional, but Russell Wilson has no problem playing that style of game. But I will say it will be a tougher game on Carson than typically. And Fletcher Cox is playing better than he has all season long. Brandon Graham is playing well. Barnett played well versus New England. So that will get interesting. If the Eagles can get some pressure on Russell Wilson, this changes the game. I think with Wilson, you need to always make sure that he isn't able to escape the pocket. But the Eagles are a very aggressive defensive line, and they just get after you. And they get in their gap, and they just force. From a secondary perspective, a lot of people are underrating the Eagles right now because early in the year, they were very banged up. They did not have a lot of health in the secondary. And now they're fully back and healthy with Darby, Maddox, who's the other guy? I'm forgetting. Mills. I think it's Mills. And then, I mean, they have like 3 or 4 pretty good corners. I think with Darby makes them a lot better because he's like a legitimate, I would say he's a legitimate bottom half number 1 corner in the league. That helps you a lot. Their safety play is good with Malcolm Jenkins, McLeod. Both of those guys are good, smart football players. And they're both good covering tight ends, which I think Hollister has been a nice little add for the Seahawks. That will be an interesting matchup there. The Seahawks, I said this in my top 10 teams video. They probably have the best receiving core of any team with Russell Wilson I remember. I mean, Metcalf has really been a home run pick for them. Lockett has been a top, I would argue, top 15 receiver this year. And then Josh Gordon is a nice add. They have some nice depth behind that with like Jerron Brown and stuff. I honestly think that's a stalemate from the corners versus receivers. When you look at it, I think like Darby and Lockett are a good matchup. And then I think Metcalf could have probably the best game of any of the receivers. So I think the Eagles are going to give the Seahawks offense a bit more trouble than people expect. On the other side of the ball, Carson Wentz, that offensive line is good. Lane Johnson left the New England game. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing in this game or not, but that would be a big loss if so. Their offensive line is good, but they were bullied by the Patriots. Jordan Howard is banged up. They signed Jay Ajayi. So I'm thinking he might be involved this week. He wasn't involved last week. They used Scott. They used Sanders. They used, pretty much it. Those guys mainly. But Sanders has been really good and impressed me a lot. Like even in that Patriots game where he didn't have a lot to do or a lot of room to operate, he still makes guys miss. He's still explosive. He still creates big plays in the passing game and in the running game. And I expect him to hit a couple of big plays in this game. I really liked some of Doug Peterson's play calling last week, which allowed them to get that long touchdown drive versus New England. But they're not playing the Patriots defense this week. And even if they have injuries at wide receiver, I know Nelson Aguilar is now banged up, which would be a big loss because now you're talking about not having any of the starting 3 receivers that you had at the beginning of the year. If Jeffrey is out, Aguilar is out, which I think both of them are questionable, and of course Deshaun Jackson's on IR. The Seahawks defensive line has played a lot better, but I don't think it will be able to dominate versus this good offensive line of the Eagles, and I could see Carson Wentz creating a couple of plays here and there. So I think it really depends on the secondary of the Seahawks versus the Eagles receivers, and I think it depends on the play calling of Peterson versus the defense of Carroll and those guys in Seattle. I'm going to say that the Eagles win. And the reason why I'm going to say the Eagles win is 2 things. The Eagles are very desperate. They lost to New England, but they were competitive. Now, they were dominated from an offensive perspective versus the Patriots defense. The Patriots defense dominated the Eagles offense for a majority of 3 quarters in that game. but they're not playing New England's defense this week. They're playing Seattle's, which I'd say is like a bottom 10 defense in the league. I think that's fair to say. Even though Jadeveon Clowney has been a beast, and even though their defensive line's been better, I still feel like they can move the ball in this game with some good game planning and with Carson Wentz and Miles Sanders. And I think the Eagles, they're a desperate team. They're right there with the Cowboys. They recognize that the Cowboys are playing New England this week, and if the Cowboys lose, they're right there with Dallas for that number 1 spot in the division. I think this is kind of a must-win game for them, because if they do lose, all of a sudden they're on the really outside looking in of even winning the NFC East, and it's going to be very challenging for them to get back into it. The Eagles are good in these type of games where they must win. We've seen it over the past 2 seasons. Maybe they're a little bit different of a team, whatever. They just find ways to win those type of games, especially at home. This is not played in Seattle. This is on the road. This is on the grass, where the Eagles are a lot better on grass than they are in turf. I think all those factors are interesting. I think if the Eagles are able to physically win this game on the defensive and offensive lines the same way that the Saints and the Ravens have versus Seattle, then the Eagles will win this game. And I think that's what will happen. Maybe I'll switch my pick if I see the injury reports and before the game it's looking like the Eagles are a little bit too banged up in this game to win it. But I just have a feeling, and I think Vegas does as well, making the Eagles a favorite of 1.5, that I will take the Eagles, because I just think that desperate mindset, and this has nothing to do with hating on the Seahawks. This has nothing to do with saying that the Seahawks are no good. I just think sometimes when a team is desperate, they overcome a better team playing them. You know what I mean? So I think the Eagles are going to win this game. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I actually think this is a tough matchup for Seattle. And even in a loss, I think Seattle could win some things. And I think people are underrating the Eagles right now, because I think on the defensive side of the ball, they're a lot healthier than they were early this season. So I'm going to take the Eagles. I'm going to do it. Why not? Next game, Jacksonville Jags at the Tennessee Titans. Titans are minus 3 points. I am taking the Titans to win. I am taking the Titans to cover. The Jaguars have seemingly regressed the last 2 weeks. And, I mean, those weeks were huge for them. They played the they played the Texans, and they played the Colts. And in both of those games, they were blown out. It's game number 3 in the division, and I think they might get blown out in this game if they don't play better. Honestly, they need to step it up. Nick Foles did not give them a spark, which I thought they might. Titans, yes, they're banged up in the secondary. Yes, Nick Foles should have a pretty good game here, but he should have had a good game versus the Colts as well. So I think that Dean Pease, I think Mike Vrabel, coming off a bye week, will have a good game plan for the Jags offense. I think they'll be able to take away what they do best. I think they'll be able to slow down Leonard Fournette. On the opposite side of the ball, their offense has been a heck of a lot better with Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill's played well. They're running the ball better. Derrick Henry is known for having epic runs versus the Jags, and the Jags defensively have not been very good versus the run, especially recently. So I'll take the Titans, the home team, the team that I think is more into the playoff race than the Jags, and the team that I think is playing the better football right now, and I think is playing with a little bit of confidence because they know that they have a quarterback that's better than their old quarterback. All right. The New England Patriots hosting the Dallas Cowboys. The Patriots right now are minus 6.5 points. I am attending this game. I've said it many times. So, if you guys are wondering if I'm streaming a game on Sunday, no, I am not. I am not streaming a game this week. Sorry. Maybe Monday night, actually. We'll see about that, but not on Sunday, because I will be in New England to watch the Patriots and the Cowboys with my dad. So, in this game, Patriots minus 6.5. Let's look at it. So, this is the number 1 offense in the NFL, taking on the number 1 defense in the NFL. The Patriots offensively are potentially missing Mohamed Sanu and Philip Dorsett. I think they've been ruled out. I'm not 100% sure, but they did not practice today. They were not at practice, and they did not participate. Maybe Philip Dorsett is back for this game. I think he had a concussion. And I think he was in the stretching portion of their practices, but it does not look like Mohamed Sanu will play. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were ruled out already, but that could be maybe maybe I heard that incorrectly by a source. One player who is back for New England is their left tackle, Isaiah Wynn, which you guys do not know how much of an upgrade Isaiah Wynn, if fully healthy, is going to be over Newhouse. It's been pretty ugly, the left tackle play for the New England Patriots recently. Isaiah Wynn in his first 2 games was really good, actually playing an elite caliber for the Patriots in those games. And if you look back at those games, the Patriots offense was a lot better in those games. And that was simply because they had better protection for Tom Brady to allow himself to have time and to throw the football. Their left tackle play has been a huge weakness for them, has hurt them on third downs, has hurt them in the running game, has hurt them in the screen game, has hurt them in every sort of way that you would think imaginable. So in this game, getting Isaiah Wynn back will be absolutely massive. Now, I think the interesting, fascinating part of this game will be the Cowboys offense versus the Patriots defense. I think if the Cowboys want to go into New England and they want to upset the Patriots, they need to get up early in this game. They need to have a long, sustaining drive early in this game where they run the football down the Patriots' throat, and it's just super impressive. Now, the thing about that is the Patriots just played an offense that plays a very similar style of running the football as to the Dallas Cowboys. They just played the Eagles. Now, the Eagles don't have Zeke, but they have an offensive line that's very similar to the Cowboys. And I think it will be interesting to see who wins that matchup up front. Danny Shelton was a nightmare for the Eagles. Will they be able to, contain him? Because if Danny Shelton's able to win at the point of attack and him and Lawrence Guy are winning in the interior, then it's much easier for the Patriots to defend the Cowboys' rushing attack. The thing is, this isn't the Cowboys of last year, the year before that. They're not really a power running team anymore. They're more of a team that is run to set up play action. Run is a secondary of Dak Prescott throwing the ball. Really, where Dallas has been really, really good is passing the ball. They're actually number 1 in passing yards this season, believe it or not, per game. So that is where I think the matchup comes down to, even though I think the matchup would say from the coaching staff of Kellen Moore, Jason Garrett, to run the ball, what the Cowboys have been good at is passing the ball. But what the Cowboys are really good at is what the Patriots are great at. And what the Patriots specifically are great at is taking away big plays in the passing game. They are number 1 in the NFL in that area. The Cowboys are the second best team in passing down the field, only behind the Chiefs. So what they do well in the passing game is throwing down the field. They don't pass the ball super effectively underneath. So if the Cowboys commit to a game plan of running the ball and passing underneath, they might have a shot. But the Cowboys' strength all season has been Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Randall Cobb, 10-plus yards down the field, and winning on routes that take a while to develop. This is why it's scary for me if I'm a Cowboys fan. I think the Patriots I don't know. I think there's going to be quite a few times where Dak Prescott is confused. I think there's going to be quite a few times where the Patriots send some heat at Prescott, and because the Cowboys are looking to hit a downfield shot, that might allow the Patriots to get to Dak before he's able to deliver the ball down the field. And the Patriots are just about the only secondary that can cover the Dallas Cowboys receivers. I think the Cowboys receivers are top 3 in the league, in my opinion. And I think Amari Cooper is an issue for just about any corner. The matchup between Gilmore and Cooper is going to be very fascinating and might even dictate this game, because if Cooper is beating Gilmore, then the Patriots will have to double team him. And I think even the Patriots might sometimes put Gilmore on Cooper and sometimes double team him and then put Gilmore on Gallup. Other times, I think if Gilmore's on Cooper, I think we'll see Jason McCourty on Gallup, and I think we'll see Jonathan Jones on Randall Cobb. So I think those are the matchups there. But it's going to be very fascinating from that perspective. And how does Belichick try and take away the deep passing attack of Gallup and Cooper? Because that's the bread and butter for Dallas. Everyone thinks it's Zeke. It's really those two guys, those two receivers, and the arm of Dak Prescott. From the other side of the football, I think it's going to be challenging if the Patriots, if they do not have Sanu and Dorsett. Because, I mean, their receiving talent is not already amazing to the point where they can just get away without their second and third best receiver. So they would be stuck with Edelman, N'Keal Harry, who's back now, and their third receiver would likely be Jacoby Myers. So I think they would have to utilize a lot of running backs, Rex Burkhead, James White, maybe Sony Michel in the passing game. I think they actually will run the ball in this game more often than I think we realize because, one, I think Wynn is back. Two, the Cowboys are weaker versus the run than they are the pass and have shown a little bit of a deficiency in this area. Three, the Cowboys are not very big on their defensive line. They're very small. And the Patriots, if they go power football, they might have some success, which will then open up play action for Tom Brady to hit Edelman and to hit these guys in the middle of the field. We've seen a Cowboys defense that has not been as good as we thought it would be. 28 points versus Minnesota, 27 versus Driscoll and the Lions. So I think the Patriots win. I think it's very close to the point spread. And also one thing I do want to throw out without... I'm going to leave it to myself because I don't want to in any way jinx the Patriots. I think this game is going to be very fun. I think it's between I would say the two most popular teams in the NFL, the two teams that bring in the most ratings. Tom Brady versus the Cowboys, Dak the way he's playing versus this defense, number one offense versus number one defense. The two best teams on third down in football on their respective sides of the ball. But again, I think it's going to be a stalemate between the Patriots defense and Cowboys offense. I think if anything, Patriots defense, especially at home, gets the better of the Cowboys offense. But I think Cowboys will be able to make a couple plays here and there, and I think they'll score around 17 to 20 points. But my thing is, I don't know if the Patriots, I think the Patriots will be able to score around 24, but I just don't know if they'll be able to cover the spread. I think it really comes down to, are the Cowboys a little bit more creative than we've seen them on defense? Are they able to get pressure off Tom Brady? How good is Isaiah Wynn back from injury? Does it make the offensive line that much better? How do the Cowboys cover Edelman? Because if the Cowboys are consistently just playing their same defense that we see from them every week, then it doesn't matter if Jimmy Joe, Ultra, Kevin Durant, and Robot Guy are the receivers for Tom Brady. If he knows you're playing cover 3 or cover 3 match, if he knows you're playing cover 2, he's going to be able to say, okay, spread them out 5 wide. I got Burkhead here, James White there, Ultra in the slot. I'm just going to go, boom, little hitch route for 5. We're going to hit you for shallow cross for 7. It's just going to be like that all day. And I could see that happening if the Cowboys just say we're going to do what we do and they don't try and challenge Tom Brady's intellect. But if they just sit there and don't do like the Eagles and challenge the receivers and play physical and say, hey, run the ball, we don't care, then it becomes interesting. So for me, I think the Patriots win, and I think maybe a little bit more success in the run game leads them to a decent game in the passing game for their offense. So I'm going to go with the Patriots to win, and for the sake of me going to the game, I'll take them to cover. But I think it will be very close to 6.5. I think it will be between a 10 to 5 point victory for the Patriots in this game. All right. Packers at Niners. I have the 49ers winning this game, guys. But I want to put an asterisk beside it. If George Kittle does not play, I'm changing my pick. George Kittle is a difference maker. George Kittle is the new Gronk. And that is a big-time praise. All right? George Kittle allows the 49ers to be that much better. because George Kittle is not only the best receiving tight end in football, but he's also arguably the best blocking tight end in football. So he allows the 49ers to do so much more in terms of their play action, in terms of their run game, in terms of their personnel sets. And without him, the Packers, I think, will be able to win. But if Kittle does play, then I am picking the 49ers all day long. Specifically because I think that the Packers' weakness is that they can't defend the run very well. The Packers are one of the worst teams versus the run. The 49ers, if they're able to run the ball and dictate the pace of play, we saw this last year. 49ers played the Packers very, very well last year. I believe it was last year. Maybe it was the year before. But the 49ers almost upset the Packers last year. And this was with a much worse roster. And this was basically by Kyle Shanahan scheming his way of beating the Packers. And they gave Aaron Rodgers all that he could handle, and it was really Aaron Rodgers making a couple plays at the end of the game to win the game for the Packers. But because the 49ers have such a good defense this year, I don't think that's going to happen if the 49ers are effective on offense. So I really think it comes down to, how do the 49ers run the ball? How does that allow them to dictate the time of possession? How does that set up Jimmy Garoppolo with good chances to throw? And then I think it just makes it that much easier if George Kittle is in the lineup. A really good matchup could potentially be Jari Alexander versus Emmanuel Sanders. That will be a very good one-on-one matchup. I think the defensive line of the 49ers versus the offensive line of the Packers will be a matchup that will dictate whether Green Bay is close or has a chance for an upset. If Aaron Rodgers has time to throw, he'll be able to make throws, tight window throws versus this zone defense of the 49ers. If the 49ers defensive line at home is overwhelming the Packers offensive line, then it could become a rough day for Rodgers, and really he's just trying to escape pressure and make plays that aren't there. So what's most likely to happen to me in looking at both of these teams and looking at the strength of these teams, even though the Packers had a bye, I'm going with the 49ers because I think what we've seen is that the 49ers will be able to run the ball. They'll be able to make a few stops and big plays on defense with their defensive line. I think Sherman versus Adams is going to be a really good matchup. But I just think the 49ers are a more talented team, especially at home. If this game was in Lambeau Field, I might change my mind. It becomes a different game. But I don't think the 49ers are overwhelmed by Aaron Jones in the running game. I don't think the Packers have too many weapons for the 49ers to really worry about outside of Adams and Jones. And defensively, I just think the Packers have been regressing, and Jimmy G has been looking better every week. So I'm going with the 49ers. I could see a Packers upset here, especially if George Kittle doesn't play, but I just think the 49ers are a good matchup for the Packers, and I think the 49ers at home, they're trying to win that number one seed. They recognize they play the Saints, who are coming on strong. I think they need this win, and they're trying to hold off the Seahawks as well. So I'm going to go with the 49ers. All right, and in my Monday Night Football matchup, it's the Baltimore Ravens at the LA Rams. Guys, leave your comments right now. I'll get to them right after this game. The Ravens are minus 3.5. I think this is an easy bet. I think the Ravens win this game. I think the Ravens win by 10 plus. Now, the reason might not be because of the Ravens offense. I think it's going to be because of the Ravens defense. I think the Rams are going to be absolutely brutalized offensively. I don't think the Rams are going to be able to do much here. Because I think with the corners of the Ravens and with the creativity of Don Martindale, they're going to be able to dominate the Rams. Because the offensive line of the Rams, just look at the Super Bowl, okay? The team that plays most similarly to the Patriots on defense is the Ravens. The Ravens have the same type of personnel. And the Ravens, with a weaker Rams offensive line that's even younger, even more banged up, and some guys are on IR. You take into account that the Ravens are going to be confusing the Rams up front, sending pressure off Goff. Goff under pressure is horrible. You get that pressure in the face, turnover city, Marcus Peters revenge game. I think it's actually going to be a good matchup on the other side of the ball because the Rams defense right now is top 5 in the league in my opinion. They're playing great. And their defensive line is playing very well versus the run. I think they're 5th for the season, 3rd in the last 3 games overall. And I'm fascinated to see what Wade Phillips does to try and contain Lamar Jackson. But as we've seen, the first time you play Lamar Jackson, it's difficult, no matter who you are coaching, no matter who you have on defense. Now, I think the Rams are fast at linebacker. I think the Rams have pretty good personnel on defense to match up, but I just don't know if that's going to be enough, like, to keep this game close. Maybe for a little bit, but then we're just going to have a couple ridiculous plays by Lamar Jackson in this offense, and the game's going to break open, and there's going to be a couple turnovers by Jared Goff, and ultimately the Ravens are going to win. I don't care the Rams are at home. I think this spread is not big enough. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the week that the Ravens, they fall on their face. Maybe they have a disappointing outing. Maybe they come out flat. Maybe. I just don't see that happening here. I think the Ravens are the better team, far superior, and I think that they're going to dominate the Rams' offense, which has not looked very good for a majority of this season. So I'm going with the Ravens. All right. Those are my picks for week number 12, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, Gronk, spike the like button. Let's get to these comments to finish this video. Okay. What is up in the chat? Okay. Where should I start? Rich G says, do you think the addition of Ramsey revitalized the Rams? It revitalized their defense, but not their team. Turtle says, Seahawks will crush the Eagles 30-19. All Seattle needs to do is throw 15 yards down the middle. Every play, Eagles fall apart in zone. Atlanta fan says, think Matty P will be safe. Got unlucky break with the refs, and now Stafford is hurt. Yeah, I think the Stafford injury kind of bails him out. Luca says, every time I was rooting for the Eagles, they lost. Now they're playing my Hawks. They're going to win. Exactly. That's why I'm picking them. Travis says, Brady won't start this week. Travis is a Patriots hater. Don't pay him no mind. Awesome Zone says, true or false, will the Chargers be a better team and make the playoffs next year? I think they'll be more talented, but I think if they still have Phillip Rivers at quarterback, it's going to be trouble. Edgar says New England will blow out the Cowboys, ? I hope you got my analysis on that game. I think potentially they could, but I just don't think they have the offense right now, especially with those receivers, to be able to blow them out. But it might be one of those games where they do dominate the game. They just don't blow them out on the scoreboard. But I think it will be within 10 points. Gombeen says Eagles win 33-24. Alex says Eagles win means Lamar is unquestioned MVP in my opinion. Interesting take on that game. Kevin Durkant says Titans 27-20. Turtle says Titans 26-13. Rob says Titans 27-10. A lot of Titans. Rob says 24-3 Patriots. If the Patriots held the Cowboys offense to 3 points, I think people would need to stop talking about the Patriots defense playing nobody. All right, Turtle says Pats 23-19. Interesting score. Kevin Durkant says Cowgirls by a hair, 28-27. Hot Take says Cowboys win 30-28. Maher with the winning field goal. Hashtag Hot Take. Ultra says Mitch can't bring himself the fact that Tom Brady is slowly but surely regressing. It's okay, Mitch. You can say he's not the 2014 guy. I agree. I mean, I think the fact of me not ranking him as the best quarterback in the league or the second best quarterback in the league or the third best quarterback in the league last year kind of had me saying that. No, I think I had him as the fourth best quarterback. So I think I'm kind of ahead of the trend on that, honestly. I think Brady's a top 10 quarterback, but the way that his offense is designed, with his left tackle being hurt, his constant turnover at receiver, no run game, I don't think many quarterbacks would be that successful in this offense. I'm just being honest. I think he's still top 10. I think he still plays pretty well, and I still think he realizes, he said it this week, this is a defensive team. He's not going to do anything stupid to lose the game. If it's 3rd and 8 and nobody's open, he's just going to throw the ball at the ground. And he's going to punt it. They're going to punt. Because they know their defense is good. So they're not going to say that, we're going to just try and win this game 50-49 every time. Because we're not capable of doing that anymore. And I think that is not just with Tom Brady. But I think with certain quarterbacks, like one in particular that sticks out in my mind. The Broncos with Peyton Manning in 2015. Giving Peyton credit here. He was horrible that season. But what did he recognize? He recognized his defense was historic. He recognized that he didn't have to do anything special. And he just needed to put his offense in the right play. And they needed to score a certain amount of points a game. And he couldn't make any mistakes. And they would win. And that's what happened. And with Tom Brady, he's better than Peyton was then. Definitely. But he's playing a similar style of game where he's just trying to manage it. And he's just trying to put them in a good position to win as a team. Because sometimes complementary football is more important than throwing for 300 yards and playing, that style of game where maybe his stats don't look as good as they used to, but they're still 9-1. And part of that is because of the way that your quarterback manages a game. There's different levels. It's different than just box score football. I've tried to explain this to people before, and I think some of that is lost in today's age of analytics and statistics and fans looking at, constantly looking at box scores. The same thing happens in basketball. There's ways to win basketball games and there's ways to lose basketball games. And sometimes the ways that you lose basketball games is because sometimes the stats don't really take into account whether you won or you lost. You know what I mean? So I think that's an interesting conversation that Ultra has yet to understand about Tom Brady. All right. Now that rant is over, I will continue. Andy says Pats will win 10-1. Alex says no one thinks it's Zeke at this point. LOL. Augustine says, I will say this, bro. Alex, a lot of people still think that Dak's not good, and a lot of people still think that Dak is made because of Zeke. I'm just saying, I think a lot more people than you think that. Is Brady hurt? I don't think so. Kevin Durkant says, Tom Brady is just as bad as Mitch's fantasy team. My fantasy team's good. TJ Niner says, it don't matter. Both teams should just quit. Neither are going all the way. I don't know who he's talking about. Awesome Zone says he has the Niners. Andy says go Green Bay. Rob says Niners 24-21. Turtle has Packers 23-20. Niners aren't as good as y'all think. I think Turtle's saying that because he's a Saints fan. Triple X says I'm a Niners fan, but Debo, Samuels, Breida, Kittle, Ford, and Gould are all banged up, so Packers are going to win. Yeah, I think it depends on who plays and who doesn't. I definitely agree with that. Rob says Jimmy G has found chemistry with Dwelly. Zane says, no, you are wrong. I don't know what I'm wrong about. Robot Guy says Niners because I'm just flipping a coin. Rob says Dwelly is a capable backup. Kevin Durkant has Green Bay 27-24. And Andy says, who wants to vote Packers? Alex says, Packers 30-17. He has Packers because they're off a bye, and Niners because they're overrated. Tyron says 48ers are overrated. Zane says 69ers. Hot Take has the Ravens. Andy has the Ravens. Rob has the Ravens 52-10. Baltimore by 692 points, says Robot. Alex has Ravens 22-3. Turtle has Baltimore 28-16. Kevin Durkant has Ravens 35-14. True or false, Chargers will be a better team and make the playoffs. I already answered that. What else here? Okay. Well, a lot of comments. Thank you guys for the comments. Da-da-da-da! Chargers. Hello, Mitch. Who's better, Lamar or Jared Goff? It's Lamar. Not even a question. Edgar says Gronk coming back. No. Percentage chance Lamar wins MVP. 66. Andy says, go Pats, go Pats, go Pats. Andy says, do you like the Pats? Yes. Kevin Durkant says, y'all know damn well I'm winning BLV Fantasy. Nah. Clash G says, nice job, kid. First time viewer. Thanks, Clash G. Hope you subscribed. Andy says, oh, I already answered that. Andy says, a lot of zeros. Cowboys, 0. How many zeros is that? I think that's 10,000 to nothing. Triple says, TJ, we got Debo Sam. He's easy. See, this is how fans work, okay? Triple is trying to set up the fact that if the 49ers do lose, he could just blame it on the injuries. I like the way you think, TJ. Triple. That's a nice way to think. Thank you, Robot. Robot says, make that Brady thing a video of its own, Mitch. I don't care how short it is. Maybe I should. Maybe I'll make an entire video on it. We'll see. Cowboys are the worst road team in the league. That's interesting. Am I going to a game? Bro, I'm going this Sunday. Patriots Cowboys. I'm also going to Seahawks 49ers in Seattle in December. Coach says the boys will go to Boston and get a W 24-21. Ooh. Okay. And Alex says I'm scared of the Ravens. On that note, I'm going to say thank you guys for joining me for the picks for week number 12. If you enjoyed, Gronk spike the like button. Subscribe if you are a first-time viewer. I appreciate all you first-time viewers. We're building something here on the Bottom Line View. I'm still pretty busy for the next couple of weeks in terms of getting more and more content on the channel, but once we hit December 6th-ish, I'll be back home in Vancouver with time off for Christmas break, so I'll have plenty of time to make a lot of content, and I'm excited to do so. So make sure you subscribe, even if it's just for that. I am planning on making a video this week for the 49ers versus the Packers, a Who is Better video. So I'm hoping that you guys are interested in that because I do feel like that's a relevant Who is Better topic. So I'm going to make that video for this week. Hopefully get that out before Friday or at the very latest Saturday. But I'm hoping at least Friday. So thank you guys for watching. It's Mitch. We'll see you next time. Peace out.